All right. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank y'all, everybody, so much for coming. Great turnout today. I am very, very excited about today's panel. My name is Mike Fernandez with Arpent Realty. This is the St. Bernard Parish Real Estate Investor Meetup. And before I get into our fantastic guest today, I want to just pitch the next couple of meetups that I think are going to be really good. So we do the last Wednesday of every month, and it just happens to be where next month's lines up just a couple of days away from Hurricane Katrina. So the goal, what I'm going to try to do, is get together some folks that were here investing in St. Bernard Parish before, during, after, like immediately after Hurricane Katrina, get some lessons learned. What was that like? Because I'm sure there's a lot of really cool stories and experiences that come out of that. Excuse me. And then September, what we're trying to put together, me and Chandler back there with EDF, we're trying to put together a government panel. And so what my goal is to get somebody from the permit office, somebody from the parish president's office, maybe one or two council members, maybe somebody from the planning commission. Get them in here. We'll chain the doors shut. No, I'm just kidding. No, but get them in here and ask the questions, right? Like, hey, what's the type of growth you want to see? What's the growth coming? What's the development? How can we kind of row? A lot of times government and developers, I feel like, row in opposite directions, but hey, how can we start rowing in the same direction, and what can we do that's beneficial to you as a government and vice versa? So a quick pitch there, but with no further ado, I want to get into these amazing panelists. Thank y'all so much for coming today. I'm very excited. If we can, just give me a 90-second origin story, if you will, on how you got in real estate, and then walk us high level down that path from starting to today. If you want to start here with Aussie Steve.
Cool. My name's Stephen Keighery. It's great to be speaking to you all today. So, when I started investing in Australia, actually, so I'm very heavily in real estate now. I do wholesaling, acquisitions, so like full-time real estate. But when I started, I wasn't that. I had a separate business, and I bought just a 20% down deal off the MLS, a rental property. So, I started as a pretty average investor. I bought 6 rentals over a period of, I think, 2.5 years in Australia. Again, all pretty much the same way, just traditional, nothing fancy. So that's how I started. And when I came to America, I did get a lot more into real estate, doing wholesaling, using my sales and marketing skills to find distressed deals and undermarket deals. So I have BRRRRs and rentals now. So I'm very much a full-time investor now, but I started pretty modestly in Australia.
Hi, everyone. Luis Parada. I jumped into the market in 2002. Background has always been in finance, started with the military and finance. It's been a great ride. I mean, obviously, we've gone through Katrina. We've gone through some ups and downs. I've graduated now from just residential to commercial lending. So pretty much across the board from any type of investor, from residential, if you're buying your primary or rental property, or if you're building, or even doctors, for example, wanting to buy a hospital or buy a building to put a business in. So that's basically what I've done for the last 24 years now.
What type of investing do you do?
Good question. So since 2008, I jumped into the investment side. So I'm at 20 rental properties now. And so little by little, asking the right questions, working with different investors, it kind of enticed me to start looking into it. And obviously from their experiences, their failures, I've learned along the way, and I've created my own that I've learned from.
Hey, y'all, I'm Dillon King. Thanks for having me today. So I kind of accidentally ended up in the realm. I really wanted to build my own personal home, and I was able to do that, luckily. And throughout that entire process, I just really fell in love with all of it, seeing the sticks go up, the whole process, picking out finishes. It was almost like, it's not instant gratification, but you see it happening before your eyes. It was super fun. So then from there, I decided to become a general contractor, went ahead, studied, practiced and passed the exam. And I did do a new build to sell that sold in early 24. And I honestly approached that more so from for being a contractor, not so much as thinking of investment side of it. And from there, honestly doing more work and realizing I was doing a lot of work for investors while they were in between tenants, kind of made me jump into the pool and realized that I wanted to do some sort of real estate investing for myself alongside being a general contractor still.
Beautiful. Love it. And I'm really excited about this panel specifically because the goal for today, we called it the newbie panel. And obviously it's not necessarily a panel of newbies, but for newbies, right? And I hope that, the veterans in the room that I see will also get some good stuff out of this. But I really wanted to pick people who have a specialization, right? Who are really good at one, or in some cases more than one thing, but who are also relatable, right? If I picked up the phone and called Robert Kiyosaki to come sit here, right? Like, that's cool, but like, it's kind of hard to relate to somebody who's been doing it for, decades and decades and is just so far ahead versus the normal person, right? So I think these guys are great because even though they are super successful and have been doing it for a while, they're also relatable, right? And so with that being said, I'm curious, and y'all can go in any order here. What deals are you looking for today? What's your buy box? What are you looking to buy? Like, what type of investing are you trying to do today in 2026?
So I'm actually under contract for my second flip.
Nice.
My focus right now for me, where we're at personally, is flips, like keeping our construction company going on the side with some of our crews. And I do like aspire to have rentals when I say get that tax problem type of deal. But as of right now, just where we're at with our family, and what our personal goals are right now, we're more after just doing flips. My buy box, I don't really have like say an area that I love or hate. I really think it's just whether the numbers work well for me. If I'm comfortable with where the numbers are landing, as far as like what my goal profit is. I know some flippers want like a percentage of what they put in or whatever, but my viewpoint is if I'm working on a house, if I'm actually running that job site as the GC, flipping it, I want to make like say like $5,000 a month. Like that's pretty much so like what my guidelines is. So I don't necessarily think I have like a buy box. I think for my flips it would be like single families or doubles for now. And as long as the numbers make sense.
Nice. I like that metric of $5,000 a month. I haven't heard that. I like that a lot.
From a lending standpoint, I really don't have a perimeter. It's open to every opportunity that's out there. Whether it's residential first-time home buyer programs to commercial lending, it doesn't matter. I'm open at that aspect. I don't set perimeters. As far as a buy box, as far as investment side, it just has to make sense. I don't have a specific single family commercial property or multifamily that I'm looking for. If the property is going to cash flow and the margins are there and it makes sense to do it, then I'll do it. I'm very strategic with how I buy and where I buy. So those are the parameters that I kind of box myself in around, from school districts to different territory areas, demographic areas, because you have some that are going to be predominantly more high volume with tenants. So you're never going to really go vacant. By the grace of God, I've been doing this since 2008, and I don't think I've gone more than 2 weeks, 3 weeks without a tenant, and I one in, one out. And it's because I've learned that it's where the property is and what's around it that's going to make it more enticing, right? So if I have a box, that's my box. It's where the property located, and the next parameter is going to be what's the cash flow, what's the margin, does it make sense, and if it does, I'm all over it.
I've been very focused on balance, so and I give that advice to maybe newbies. I mean, I'm my real motive investing. I love rental properties. I love the BRRRR strategy. That's really my favorite strategy. But I've also been a bit out of balance. Like I bought 14 BRRRRs in 12 months in 21. Been buying, like I bought a lot of BRRRRs, and that's out of balance. So if you're looking to build rental properties, it is, I believe, the best way to build wealth, long-term wealth. But if you think you're going to buy you're going to buy 14 properties in a year and live off the cash flow, that ain't happening, right? So you need to balance that with other income, earned income, active income. So personally, I've actually been way more focused on wholesaling now, because I also wholesale. So I'm looking for distressed properties and I'm assigning contracts. So I'm wholesaling the majority of my deals right now, and that is my focus. and just maintaining my rentals. And I will still buy a rental when it makes sense. I like my strategy is if I can buy it cash, fix it up, do a refinance, get all my money out, and it's still cash flow after all the expenses. And I'll do that all day. And that normally sees me buying properties that are like a lower ARV if they're single families, generally like below 200 ARV. And it's not that I care about the ARV, it's that the rent to value ratio is important to cash flow, and that normally means it's like not a higher end property. So that's really the focus now.
Nice. I like that. And you actually touched on, it's a perfect segue into kind of the next part of that question is, I'm curious how you guys look at doubling down on your thing versus diversifying. You talked about balancing, right? Is there a point where, and you kind of alluded to this already, Steve, but where you say, hey, I'm going to take some chips off the table, look at something different, and it could be within real estate or outside of real estate, but versus, no, I'm really good at the burst strategy, single family homes in St. Bernard Parish or wherever, I'm going to stick with what I'm good at. Where do you see yourself on that spectrum?
That's a really good question, and it's a hard one to answer because I don't think anything's right. I do think that when you focus, it's very good to focus on one thing. So when I came to America, I wanted to do wholesaling, and I looked at real estate first, and I was into real estate. I was into the market here, so I started general. I went to like the Noria and the meetups, and there was lots of things to do. But when I found wholesaling, I realized it used my skills. I have sales and marketing background, so I realized that was my skill. And I think why I was successful at wholesaling was I went, don't talk to me about anything else. I listened to wholesaling podcasts, read wholesaling books. I just wholesaled. Even though I wanted to buy rentals, that was my goal. I knew that wholesaling was the way in, so I really just focused on that. I built momentum. But then I did get to a point where I had momentum and I had deal flow. I'm like, it's time for me to start buying properties myself. So then I got into the BRRRR, very much focused on the BRRRR. I do think there's really a benefit in just picking one thing and going. But once you get that momentum, I think you can look to diversify. You should diversify, where you're getting your income, where you got your properties. St. Bernard Parish, like picking a parish, I think it's good to know an area, but like it's also dangerous if if you know this one block and this one little neighborhood, like if a tornado comes and might be close to home, Mike, sorry, man. But if a hurricane comes and takes that whole neighborhood and all your properties in that neighborhood, I mean, you got problems. But if you're spread out, I have rentals on the West Bank, in New Orleans East, in Mid-City, in Slidell. Like they're a little bit geographically dispersed. I would like to do more in Mississippi and stuff. So it's hard to answer, man, because I think focus is great, but diversification is also good too. So I think if I had to summarize that, I'd say start with focus, and then once you have momentum, then look to diversify.
Earn the right to diversify, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's 100% accurate. I'm originally from the West Bank. I'm not from St. Bernard, although I live here now. My first rental property was on the West Bank. And you hit the nail on the head. You don't want to be stuck in one parish, one sector, because if a storm does come, you lose tenants. You have damages to the houses. Granted, your insurance company is going to cover you for X amount of months for loss of rent and whatnot, but that'll deplete before you know it. So you want contingency. You want a backup plan. From where I stand now, I have West Bank, Metairie, North Shore, St. Bernard. So the meat of it's here, but it's spread out, and I do it strategically for that reason. I'm not opposed to going to Kenner. I'm not opposed to going to Metairie, to Slidell. It's just, again, when you're diversifying and you're trying to build a portfolio, that's exactly what you want to do. It's a book of business, and you want to look at, again, what's the rental median? Understand what you're buying versus what you're going to collect on it. Doubling down on that is the best way to go. And the best advice I can give when it comes to, I'm long term. I don't flip. I don't do short term. All my investments are long term. They're for the long haul. With that being said, a lot of people make the mistake of focusing too much on the cash flow up front and pocketing it. Where if you strategically do it, where you have a different source of income, right? I'm a lender, right? So I don't depend on it. But if you can take those funds and then amortize your own loan down, you're building your nest egg. There's your equity. So any event of any problem, or if you want to grow, or if you want to build more, get into more properties in different areas, you start building that nest egg where you can borrow against it. You can do lines of credit. They're in commercial world, they have umbrella loans. We'll talk about it later, but there's so many different options, right? And that gives you the leverage to be able to go. And Metairie is a higher dollar than St. Bernard. St. Tammany is higher dollar, St. Bernard. Rent's higher. So when you start playing that and understanding the different parameters of it, it really opens your eyes to where to invest, how to invest, and what to do with that.
As I guess newer, I'm very eager to diversify. The hard thing for me, because I am, if anyone knows me, Steve works with me and knows sometimes my mind's going way faster than, I need to be in reality. But I want to diversify as far as like what my focus is. So, started with the GC and now my focus is doing flips. My goal is to do a flip a quarter or so. And then I want to diversify into building like a rental portfolio. I already know I want to diversify in the areas. I work alongside Steve with Homebuyer, and I do like the assessment of the properties. So I enjoy that because while I'm seeing all kinds of different neighborhoods that I wouldn't just typically drive through all the time, I feel like it's preparing me for when the day comes when I am looking for a rental. No matter what city it's in, that I'll kind of have like my bearings of what the local area and that neighborhood looks like, ARVs look like, and things like that, because I'll know what properties that we were able to move easier, etc., things like that. So I'm eager to diversify. I just am not really there yet, but I know when I do get to a point where I'm building a rental portfolio that as long as the numbers make sense, ARVs make sense, kind of getting the advice and guidance from my real estate agent that I work with, that I'll be ready to make the right decisions.
Yeah, those are all great answers. And I think, one thing you guys kind of all alluded to is these different paths. And I think that's one of the great things about real estate is it's so diverse and there's so many options. You could do wholesaling, Airbnb, land acquisitions, creative finance. Like there's a huge wide range of things you can do in real estate. But I think it's also something that trips people up because they either get paralysis by analysis and say, well, they spend months and months and months analyzing what's the optimal strategy to start and get into, or they haven't earned the right to be diversified, and they buy an Airbnb and then they wholesale a little bit and then they jump here and do that, right? And they kind of jump around. But if you had to pick one, is there one that stands out as if somebody says, all right, I'm brand new, want to jump in, want to pick one and focus on, does any specific strategy or asset class stand out to you guys as the one like, hey, you should start out flipping, long-term, wholesaling? Is there, in your opinion, the least friction entryway into real estate investing?
So I think, and this is, I don't know, I think the best way to really kind of start learning some of like the real estate and the investor world is to work alongside a tradesman or work in some kind of trades field, because you get to be introduced to how many layers there are to a flip or, just a burr type of situation. So I know that's not necessarily like an answer, like you need to start flipping and renting, but like I think you need to have a bearing on what it takes to flip a house. And I don't think there's much better way than to like start getting into houses where it's like you're looking at some studs and assessing the wood around it, or assessing is there sheathing on the other side type of stuff. So I know it's not necessarily like, this is the real estate investor way to get in, but I think to be able to have some type of like background knowledge of the layers of what it is to construct a house, I think is knowledge that will take you really far.
That's good.
That's actually a real good question because I come across that a lot with different investors, from new investors to experienced investors. Best thing I can say is, the first thing I ask them is, what's the long-term goal? Period. What are you getting into this for? What's your end goal, right? Flipping's not a bad thing. Rehabilitation isn't a bad thing. Rental property isn't a bad thing. It just depends. Everybody's situation and circumstance is going to be different. There's no two alike, period. I see it day in, day out. So that's why the most important thing is understanding what your end goal is. What are you trying to accomplish in doing this, right? Because a lot of people, it's out of sight, out of mind. If it was easy, everyone would do it. My very first one was a flip. After Katrina, I got a house, studs, Louis XIV. I jumped in, figuring it out, right? I learned the hard way what it means to rehabilitate and flip a house and make your profit and not get overzealous and start eating away at your profit, right? It's trial and error. So again, if the long-term goal is retirement, wealth, cash flow, so forth, so on, then I would tell you go get a rental property. And don't do what a lot of people make the mistake of doing, right? Everybody sees this nice, shiny house. It's big, it's pretty. I don't have to worry about anything. You're gonna pay $500,000. Are you gonna get the rent for it to cover it? Are you gonna cash flow? Are you breaking even? Why not keep it simple, stupid? Start with something not that needs a lot of work, but it's nice, it's presentable, paint, couple of touch-ups here and there, and it's right back up to par. And you're gonna cash flow better. So it's just, again, understanding what the long-term goal is. What are you trying to get out of it to position yourself to be successful? If you just jump in blindfolded, you're gonna learn the hard way. And a lot of people get discouraged from it and don't grow. It's not for me. And it's a shame because it's a great industry, but it's understanding what your goal is, short-term, long-term, what are you trying to accomplish, how to position yourself to do it. Ask people. Don't be shy to ask lenders, real estate agents, investors. Pick their brains. Not everybody's gonna have the golden key, but little by little, you start piecing the puzzle together and you can say, this is what I wanna do. So this behooves me, it's better to go this route, get my rental property, get my cash flow, get my net worth. And then if you wanna flip, jump and start diversifying. I would say get 1, 2, 3 rentals and then start flipping. Or if that's what you wanna do, flip, take your cash and then reinvest it somewhere else, but understand what you're getting into. That's the number one thing.
I'll say it depends, right? So I'll give you a couple of scenarios. So it depends on you, I think. It depends on your skill set and like what you're about. Like if you're a handy person, if you like if you like if you're into building trades, I think flipping is a really great way to start. It's a good way to make large chunks of money, get you into properties. So I think that's a valid path. That's not me though. I'm not very handy. I can barely change a light bulb, right? So that's not me. I have a sales and marketing background. So wholesaling is how I got into this side. And that's a phenomenal. If you're good at sales and marketing and business, wholesaling is a really good strategy. Because you're controlling deals, you're starting to market, you're speaking to sellers, you're seeing deals, you're analyzing deals. It's a really good way to understand the market. So I think it just depends on, because some people they're great at renovating, but they're not good at like speaking to people. And you should flip. And if you're the other way around, I would do wholesaling. If you wholesale is a really good, if you get good at that, you can build you can start buying rentals off it. You can do a lot of things off it. And I'll add a third option that like maybe you, because I don't think rentals is a place to, if you're like, hey, I want to be full-time real estate, I don't think rentals, it's not going to start that way. Like you don't go full-time fast in rentals. It takes time. But I think a very fine path is to have a job or have some other form of income and just buy some rentals, right? Like one rental at a time, get some money, like make money elsewhere, make that rental. Like you said, don't count on that cash flow. That rent's not coming to you. The first few years, like you're paying maintenance, you're fixing things. Your bank might stack for a minute. Like you might be getting good cash flow and you're like, great. Then the water heater goes, right? Like, but rentals is really good long-term. So I think there's nothing wrong with having a job or another source of income and just slowly stacking rentals and build a retirement that way. But don't think you're going to come out and buy 10 rentals and retire as a rental property investor in a year. It's not happening. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's spot on. You honestly hit on, I think, two of the biggest misconceptions, if not the two biggest, is I'm going to buy a couple of doubles and then I'll quit my job and live off the cash flow, one. And two is the influencer, quit your job, YOLO, buy a couple and you can quit your job, right? It's kind of the sales pitch, but it's just, I don't even know a single person who's ever done it, who's ever just like bought rentals, quit their job and didn't wholesale agent, lender who like didn't have some other active income and just purely lived off the cash. I don't think I've ever met a person
or made money elsewhere. Like you might have a business, you might have had a big liquidity. If you have a bunch of money, yeah, you can buy a bunch of rentals cash, like with cash and live off them. That's cool, but you got to have that money first. So yeah.
Good. Let's see. I'm gonna stick with you, Aussie Steve. So let's say somebody put a gun to my head and said, you have to find a deal this week by Sunday at midnight, right? And I come to you and I'm like, Steve, listen, man, they're going to kill me if I don't find a deal. What's your advice to me? What's the best strategy to find a deal in 4 days or whatever?
So you're assuming that I care that you leave, right? Okay. No sense. So I would say, you are looking for distress, like you're looking for a distressed property. So depends on the resources you have, right? Like I have a lead flow, but let's say I've got no lead flow. I'm driving around my area. I'm looking for the beat up houses. I'm seeing where they are. I'm taking them down. I'm going to the assessor's side. I'm seeing who owns them. I'm skip tracing them. I'm calling them. Maybe I'll pull a foreclosure list.
You said skip tracing. What does that mean?
So skip tracing is when you if you put the name and address of someone, you can use software that will give you numbers, potential numbers of them, right, associated with them. They're normally pretty accurate. So you can call that person and say, hey, like, I noticed you. Normally, if you want a bit of a pitch, it's normally actually would be a bit more like, oh, hey, sorry, I don't know if I got the right number. Do you happen to own 123 Main Street? And that's a sales trick, by the way, just to like not sound like a telemarketer. Oh, you do? Oh man, cool. I'm wondering because we're looking to buy some investments in the area. Have you thought about selling? Right, and that would be the way I would speak to them. But the key is, because if you do that to a random person, more like 99 times out of 100 are going to get lost. But if you found that house that like had tarps on the roof, that had overgrown grass, like because you've identified places that house looks really bad, they're very likely to be like, oh yeah, I'd sell it. You know what I mean? So like you're looking for that distress is what I'm looking for. It could be a foreclosure list too, but I'm just looking for distress, and I'm getting on the phone to that person and making an offer.
I like it. That's good advice. Luis, I'll switch back to you. So 20 years and over 20 years you're telling me back there is crazy. I'm convinced this man is a vampire. He doesn't look like he's old enough to be doing finance for that long. But what are some of the biggest misconceptions, and you could take this either way you want, right, in terms of real estate financing for a newbie who thinks, well, I don't have 20% down, right? And then B, and you could take this either direction. What are some of those options, whether it be DSCR, you know what I mean? Like what the conventional person who says, hey, either my credit's not right, or I don't have 20%, or I don't have boatloads of money. Are there options? What might that be? Just quick, down and dirty.
So there's options available, but the key factor is going to be, again, every person has a unique financial situation. There's no two alike. And understanding what that looks like. If it's a credit score factor, then we need to look and see what we need to do to get the scores where they need to be to qualify, first and foremost. Depending on liquidity. If you have the liquidity to put the down payment, if you go DSCR, that's quick, simple, easy, right? Painless. 20% down. I don't need tax returns. I don't need anything. The house is the borrower. You're the co-borrower because the rental income sustains the note. Done. Simple peasy, right? Not everybody has 20% down. So the next factor is going to be, are you a homeowner? Yes or no? If you're not, Mike's favorite thing, house hacking. So what do? It takes time, but you got to pay to play. You can get into it under certain programs, buy a double, buy a fourplex, live in it for a year. You're coming into a minimal amount of money down. You still now have rental property, rental income, so it's on the books. You're now a landlord, so you qualify for that. And then after that, you can start looking into getting another property, and the same cash that you're getting from the rental property now counts towards your income. So it makes it that much easier for you to qualify on top of the normal income that you have. So there's different ways and different programs. I could be here all night talking about all the programs that exist, but it's more of finding the right lender that knows how to position you on your financial circumstance and situation to be able to piece it together and say, this is your route. And this is the fastest and easiest way to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish. Otherwise, you're going to do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and accomplish a whole lot of nothing. Because you're piecing little bitty pieces, and this one said this one said that. And at the end of the day, none of it lines up. Because it's the program that exists that's going to help you get to where you're getting. And how does that program fit with your financial situation? So if you have the money, yeah, DSCR all day, every day. It's my favorite loan to do. because they're quick and painless. Other than that, strategy and position yourself. And they've got different programs. Like I said, house hacking is the number one thing to do. And my advice would be never get single family on that. Always multifamily. Because the key factor, whether you know it or not, people progress. They don't regress. So a lender's going to look at, an underwriter's going to look at it from a standpoint that you're not going to buy a single family home to go live in a double. You're not going to buy a single family home to go live in a fourplex. That's backwards. You're going to buy a bigger house. You're going to buy a nicer house. But if you buy a double and you move into another double, who are they to tell you you can't? You're in that position. So it's either lateral or better, never backwards. That's the key. Underwriters look at it from that standpoint and they scrutinize it for that because nobody moves backwards in life. So again, each financial situation in comparison to the program and how it fits, how it correlates, and then you find your avenue. So there's always a way. You just got to find it.
That's good. And before I go to Dillon, I think if you stack that on top of what Aussie Steve was talking about, where, hey, I don't hate my job, right? If you got a job, you don't hate it, don't fall into the pressure on Instagram and TikTok and all of like, oh, quit your job and go full-time real estate. Like, keep the great job because you are the most lendable person on the planet. And if you can stack the house hacking with the great full-time and do this on the side, man, like it's a no-brainer.
Yes, income is number one. Don't get rid of it. Even if you have the luxury to say, I want to get rid of it, don't get rid of it. That is your backbone, period, whether you need it or not. It on paper, it is your backbone for any lending practices. Because once you go on your own and you start writing everything under the sun off, you still get it done. But my favorite phrase, the phrase I use is you got to pay to play. So understand that you can write everything else off, no problem, but you're coming to the table. And you're going to have to pay to play because now you've complicated things a little bit. So if you have income, a stream of income, never get rid of it. If you can hold on to it as long as you can. Meanwhile, you build and get to where you want to be.
That's good. Dillon, I'm curious from your perspective, being the flip you mentioned was your first one, right?
Yeah.
How did you overcome the imposter syndrome? I feel like that's a big thing that holds people back. Like, who am I to flip? Like, I remember the moment I bought a fourplex in Violet, and at the time I was a teacher. I was a middle school teacher. And I remember the specific moment in my head where I'm like, what are you doing buying an apartment complex? Like, you're not qualified to do that. Who in the world is giving you a loan to buy a 4-unit, right? Like, and I think every investor has that moment of imposter syndrome. Like, walk us through, like, what was that like? How do you fight that? What advice would you give to somebody in that situation?
So my thing is I didn't have an income. I actually owned a gym for 9 years, so I was writing off everything. So I had all the experience. I was GC, all this stuff, but banks would not lend to me. So that caused like severe imposter syndrome of like, oh, you're trying to be an investor, but like you can't even get approved for a loan type of thing. You have amazing credit, but like none of it matters, right? So I actually partnered with a longtime best friend. She was basically the partner in the LLC we created to be able to get the loan to do our flip. So that gave me some confidence to like partner with somebody and realize that even though I couldn't get the financing, like I had the crews and I had the license and I could pull the permit. So it got me away from being like, I have to have all of these things to be a real player. I just have to bring my strengths to the table, and then somebody else will bring their strengths to the table. And that's like an amazing partnership, because if we have two of the same people, then not much is probably going to get done. So it helped me like realize my strengths. And then when the numbers actually panned out, better than we predicted after, I ran estimates and put our scope of work in for the loan, when we came out even better than we thought at the end of the flip, it really like gave me a pat on the back of like, okay, like trust yourself a little bit. We sold that flip in February, and I have been pretty much hunting since then. And I'm just finally like have my eyes set on another property. For like the last 2 months, I've actually been texting John Lester, being like, dude, I am like feeling sick. He's like, I feel you, man. It's like you have to have a project on your lap like every so often, or you start being like, I'm just pretending around here, So I definitely still deal with that. But I think a misconception that people have is like, when I was looking into the real estate investing world, I felt like everybody was doing it on their own, and I didn't realize how many like partnerships there actually were. within the investment realm. So I think just realizing what my strengths are and that's an asset in itself. I don't need all the parts to play. Really helped me just kind of gain some confidence in the field.
That's really good. And I want to pull out one thing you said that's really important. You talked about the partnership and different strengths, right? I think a lot of times people will say, hey, you and I are buddies and we both think alike and we both work and do the same thing and we're the same person. Let's partner up and do real estate. And it makes no sense, right? You're the same person. Why would you split it with somebody? The fact that you were wise enough, right, to partner with somebody who had a different set of strengths, who brought something different to the table is, I think, very, very important, something that gets missed.
Yes, she wanted to get into, she's actually house hacking in a fourplex right now, but she wanted to get into it, but she didn't know like what, of course she wanted me to be her contractor because I'm her friend, but she didn't really know anything about like the permitting or like how much is all this going to cost. And I was like, well, look, I'm like already ready to go on a flip. I'm like, if you've got a pen and we'll sign your name to this paper for the loan, I'm like, we can just rock and roll. So it's like we were literally both looking to get into the game and having the opposite problems, and we've been best friends for like almost 20 years, and it was like, why are we not just like working together on this?
That's awesome. That's really good. This next one, I'm excited to hear y'all's perspective because A, you're all investors yourselves, but B, you are vendors, tradesmen, you deal with other investors, right? We're coming off a string of a really tough 3 to 4 years. And I know there's a lot of investors who are no longer with us, right? They either quit or got out of the game or lost everything. In your opinion, we can start with you, Dillon, work this way, but what separates those that survived the last couple of years and are still investing and still holding their head above water versus those that either quit, went belly up, or have had a worse couple of years than most people?
I mean, that's going to be a little bit difficult for me to speak on per se, like knowing someone personally that's like been through it and is out of it now. But I would say you definitely have to have like a stomach for sleepless nights when you're taking risk. This is like not for the weak of people who like don't like a stressful situation because, there's a lot of stressors and things that can come up unexpected. But I think if you're running your numbers and you trust yourself and you don't allow yourself to get to a point where you're like, but I'll be fine if, like, I think if you keep that safeguard up and you almost like really try to almost make every deal seem like it's not a deal, and then you find out like that it is, then you should be able to weather those like types of storms. And I also think, and I've thought about this because even though I don't have rentals, I've run numbers on rentals and I've made offers to like buy subject to, and I've, looked at a couple of rentals and seller financing, and it hasn't worked out. And like I could have on those just because I wanted to, but I think people need to pump the brakes and really say like worst case scenario, like another COVID happens. Like, what does this look like? Am I relying on this cash flow, or am I fine and can let this cash flow just stack up? Because I know the AC on this, 12-year unit is bound to go out one summer, So like I said, I don't know anybody personally because I'm just getting into it. I'm just now meeting other investors like the past few years. But I think not getting ahead of ourselves and knowing that we can deal with a decent amount of stress and live a happy life throughout it,
It's actually a really good question, and I'm sitting here thinking and listening. I can only speak from my standpoint of what I've seen and other investors that I've worked with that I've seen come and go. And the biggest factor is, if Mike can relate to this, if one thing we learned in the military, strategy wins wars, right? You have to have a game plan. You have to have a strategy. And me personally, I'm a huge risk taker. Anyone that knows me knows that I will take the risk, but it's a calculated risk. Everything is calculated. I'm not overzealous. I don't get ahead of myself. Everything is calculated. Best case scenario, worst case scenario. How do I counter it? And what do I prepare for it? Right? Because everybody has to hope for the best, prepare for the worst. But the factor in this is that I personally, what I do for each individual property that I have, before I start dumping the gains, whether it's 500, 1,000, 200, whatever it is, before I start dumping back into the principal to amortize it down and start building that liquidity in it, right? I always have an account for each house that has a threshold, whether it's 5 grand, 10 grand, whatever it is, and it stays there and it doesn't get touched. Because, for example, this last week, I had 2 AC units go out. I had a pipe bust underneath one of the single families. Then I had the drain out to the city, the connector, whatever was off, the ceiling, they had to go back in. Bottom line is, I don't lose sleep. I don't have to worry about how I'm going to pay for it. I don't have to worry about it. I have the funds there. Just take it out, replenish, and then keep back to the plan, right? Dump back into principal. I say that because it's very risky. And what I've seen is people get ahead of themselves and they shoot for the stars. And growth is a process. You'll grow yourself right out of business. And a lot of mistake that even people like us that have been doing it for a long time. You get cocky, you get confident. Oh, I'm good. It's not going to happen to me until it does. So the biggest factor is, the advice I can give on that is strategy number 1. Know where your properties are, know what the cash flow is, have a game plan of what the long-term goal is, and what's the end result that you're looking for, and how are you going to get it, right? Because that's going to give you leverage to say, okay, if A happens, B happens, C happens, I'm prepared for all 3. Because there's not, and I'll tell you guys this because I tell it to every investor that I work with when we close. That butterfly, that gut-wrenching feeling when you're signing the paper, we're like, how the hell am I going to pay for this? If something happens, it never goes away. Whether it's your first, whether it's your 5th, whether it's your 15th, whether it's your 20th, it never goes away. Because I've learned to block out that I'm responsible for X amount of dollars every month worth of mortgages. If you actually sat there and thought about it, there's no way in hell I could pay that in 1 month. So when you think about it, it's worrisome. Don't think about it. Things have a way to work themselves out as long as you have the strategy and you have the game plan to position yourself well with it. And crawl before you walk. Always crawl. Don't run.
That was a great answer. The reserves, I think, is an important part of it. But I would say what separated people, over the last few years and that made it, I think, like belief and commitment. 2020 and 21, like a lot of mistakes, got glossed over because the market saved you, right? The last few years, operators have won. You have to be an operator. You have to be prepared to, jump in and fix things, firefight the things that came out. We had insurances, like as a rental property owner, like insurance was tough, man. It's tough. I had 7 of my properties go negative, right? And some people panic. What do you do? Negative? Sell your properties. Why am I selling them? They're slightly negative. I've got no money in them. Like they're all positive now because the escrow came down and I made it through, but I didn't panic, right? Because I knew what I was doing. I knew the goal, and you got to push through it. Wholesaling became harder. Like a lot of people got out of New Orleans, like was dead. New Orleans been the worst market. And Chalmette actually probably now, right? But I'll say Greater New Orleans is like one of the worst markets in the country. For a couple of years it was tough, and everyone was stopping buying, stopping wholesaling, and I never did. Because I believed in it's like the shiny object syndrome. You jump, oh, this is tough, let me jump here. If you do that, trust me, where you jumped, it's just gonna get bad, and you're gonna fail there. You're gonna jump your whole life, right? So because New Orleans was down, starting to improve, it'll get better. So we did diversify. So we did like Baton Rouge, and we added a few markets to help offset, but we never stopped doing deals in Orleans. We still do many deals in Orleans. So I think you just need to believe in what you're doing, push through it. Don't chase shiny objects. I see lots of people jump from like real estate. Now I buy businesses, and now I do this, and it's like you're gonna have trouble over there and try to come back. You know what I mean? Like you can add on, but you just if you believe in what you're doing, and if you know your strategy, keep going. Like you keep going, and like sometimes you might have some setbacks, but if your strategy's strong, double down, get through it, keep going. So maybe tenacity. I don't know.
No, that's really good advice. All 3. And I think who is it? I think it's Michael Zuber, right? That talks about like pick something, get really, really good at it, and do it for 10 years, right? And I think all 3 of y'all are really good examples of that. Of like pick something and just stay on the road. Yeah, it's gonna get hard, but what's the quote? It's every day in a bad market, you're one day closer to a good market, right? So like just push through, stick with it. Yeah, I think that's all great advice. One of my favorite like core principles is the law of sowing and reaping, right? Like you plant seeds today, and y'all have kind of alluded to a lot of things that touch on that, but plant seeds today, and get the harvest at some point in the future, right? It's not tomorrow, right? But what is a seed? I want to make this very actionable and maybe quick 30-second answer, but what is a seed that somebody here can plant literally tomorrow morning that would help them on the journey of having that harvest of wealth and rental properties and stuff in the future, 20 years down the road?
Don't wait till tomorrow morning. The seeds in the room, the people in the room are the seeds. Like, make sure you connect and everyone here. Change numbers. Like, that is what'll help you. I know I met Dillon here a year ago, right? Dillon, the first time I met him, said what's up as a GC. We had a brief conversation, but I knew him. But that was the first met. Now we work together. We've done deals together. Like, the seeds in the room. So just that was what you need to do.
That's good.
I'll go back to the same thing. And I'll use my daughter as an example. She, at 16, 17, saw me building and doing, and all of a sudden decided that it's something she's interested in. She's in college, but it's something she wants to dabble with. Now she's, 23 with 3 rental properties, and she's well on her way, right? But she did exactly that. Asked specific questions and said, you know what? Let me dive in, become a real estate agent. Now let me learn the back end. Let me learn everything that it entails. Let me see the ins and outs and how to maneuver through this, because the lending side, I'm going to teach. But if you're hungry enough, again, have a game plan. What's your end goal? What you're trying to do? Have the strategy. Look at the finances. Everybody's income's different. Where can I put here? How can I move this, save this? How long it's going to take me to get to where I want to be to have either enough to house hack, buy your first 3-plex, 4-plex double, or if you're self-employed, it's a lot of cash flow. Just because the paper sucks, it's still a lot of cash flow. Where can I move and what can I position so that in 6 months I can go do this? 3 months I can go do this. Only you know your cash flow. So at that point, position it well, have a strategy, and calculated risk. Don't set yourself up for failure. That's the biggest thing. Biggest thing.
Not to totally echo Steve, but that's what I was gonna say. Is like I think like was able to move, say, as quickly as I have within this year. It's because I started going to all the meetups that I could. My first meetup was the Investor Fest last June, and then a few weeks later I was here because Dom was speaking, because she was in town for Investor Fest. I introduced myself to Steve, which he was nose deep in his film, but now I know him well enough that he was probably working a deal after hours, so I forgave him for that. But I was getting in every room that I could with imposter syndrome, and I was introducing myself to everybody. Like, I'm a local general contractor. Like, I've done new builds. Like, I wasn't trying to brag, but I was trying to let people know who I was, that I was interested, and that I had something in the realm to offer. And I just didn't quit. I got on every Facebook, group that I could. I was commenting under anything just so people would start recognizing my name, and I would start recognizing other people's names. That way, when I got into rooms, even if like we didn't have a personal conversation before, I could feel more comfortable going up and introducing myself. So I think you probably are in here because you're either a tradesman, or you want flips, or that you have a goal. There's a reason why you're in this room. So like, meet people, and then let people know what your interests are and what your strengths are.
That's really good. And I love how you said you would go in the rooms and let people know how I can add value or what I can bring to the table or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Like that idea again of like you're going seeking how you can add value to them, not, hey, what can I get? And it's I'm pretty sure it's Think and Grow Rich, or one of those like older written books. He talks about people trying to harvest where they didn't plant, right? Or reap where they didn't sow, like circling
Right.
it back to the analogy. And I think you see that mistake a lot, right? Instead, the right way to do it is exactly what you said. Hey, here's what I do. Here's what I can do for you. Here's the value that I can bring. And you'll have more deals, more connections, more
Yeah.
networking than.
Yes, my thought was if I told them I was a GC and they needed something really small done on a rental, and I just started working with one person, then they could refer me to somebody else, and then I could also gain a relationship with them where I see like how they manage their rentals and stuff like that. As long as my foot's in the door and I'm getting some kind of experience with other investors, like I'm in some way, I'm networking, yes, but I'm learning from, their side of it.
That's really good. So I want to start to land the plane. I want to make sure we have time in case anybody in the audience has any questions. Lewis brought some mugs back there, so anybody who asks a question gets a free mug. But I kind of want to wrap up here with I had a long list of questions, and I got to about a quarter of them. So I want to give you guys an opportunity to, what's the one piece of advice you would communicate to somebody who is either wanting to invest in real estate, just getting started, maybe a blue belt, right? But somewhere in that early beginner phase, what's the one piece of advice that you want them to leave here with? And I'll go first to give you guys a little bit of time to think. But for me, I think it's the most important thing is connecting what you want to do or where you want to be, to Lewis's point about strategy, with what you do day to day, right? You see people, I want to be a real estate investor, right? Well, how many lenders have you talked to? How many meetups have you gone to? How many wholesalers have you met with? How many deals have you analyzed? How many offers have you put in, right? Like, if I say I want a 6-pack at the end of this year, and you're like, well, Mike, how many times are you going to the gym? Oh, I haven't gone in 6 months, right? Or when's the last time you ate a vegetable, Mike, right? Like, what you want has to connect to what you're doing every single day. And I think that's where the rubber meets the road to actually move things forward. So that's mine. Again, in any order, you guys, what do you want to leave people with?
I think just start, really. I think, like, obviously y'all are all probably listening to podcasts and reading books, but also don't get stuck on analysis paralysis, because I did before I ever really got started. And then I was starting to feel like I was in that realm again between selling my flip and looking at the one I'm looking at now. So I think just, yes, you want to learn and you want to network, but you also want to be actionable. So looking at what you are doing and what you are offering to the other people in the room and saying, like, how can I get this to work for me, to either build a partnership where I can actually, like, start being actionable in this field.
To piggyback off of that, he's right. I'm a firm believer, invest in what you know. And that's why my first rental property was on the West Bank. I'm from the West Bank, right? I'm from Algiers, grew up there, know the area through and through. So before venturing out and taking risk, start calculating, right? You know the area. You know the good, the bad, the indifference, everything in between. So you know what good schools are there. You know what good areas are there. What's the one that's more enticing to people? Where do they want to live? What area? What part of Algiers, right? Those little key factors carry a lot of weight. And so when you're investing, you can look. It's not, even though you don't live there anymore, you've moved on, it's still not a bad idea to invest with the area that you're familiar with. It's your backyard, right? And again, yes, the strategy of because not everybody's going to have a trade, right? You have teachers, you have clerical office managers. It doesn't align with flipping or renting or anything of the such. So the biggest factor is do your homework, research, understand what you're getting into. They've got tons of great books out there, right? They break it down from multifamily to investing in single family to diversifying, understanding the financial aspect of it. Look, it's my job to answer questions. I love answering questions. I love educating. So for somebody to call me, it's not a waste of time to say, hey, look, I just want to see what my options are. Cool. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I got 24 years. Someone else may have 15. Someone else may have 50 years. Pick their brains. Because my 24 years is not their 15 and their 50. Combined, you have a wealth of knowledge. Ask the right questions. Find out the right strategy. Look at what the options are available. And then whoever you feel most comfortable with when you're ready, pull the trigger. But the biggest thing is homework, research, asking questions. When I got into it, I've worked with a ton of investors, but yet I never invested. I was too scared. So it wasn't until I started, well, how'd you get into it? Why'd you get into it? What don't you like about it? What sucked? What's the reward? And everybody gave me different answers across the board. And then that's where I was able to start piecing together and said, okay, you know what? I'm ready. I'm getting in. Let's go. And so again, if you have the right strategy, you do the homework, you do the research, knowledge is power. And you'll be able to position yourself and maneuver the way you need to maneuver to get where you want to get.
Can I add one thing real quick, Steve, on that? So you talked about knowing your market. I think a tactical tip or a way to go about that is, like you said, pick an area, right? Whether you want to do St. Bernard Parish, Slidell, or even more specific than that, pick a neighborhood, Bywater maybe, right? And if you're not ready to buy yet, hey, this is where I want to buy, this is what I'm looking for. If it were me, I would analyze every single if let's say you want multifamily in the Bywater, I would analyze every single multifamily that pops up active, right? And like any broker, any realtor can set up a drip campaign to show you what it pops up for, what it sells for. And as soon as it pops up, analyze, hey, if I was ready to buy, here's what I'd offer. Here's what I think a good price is. And then watch and see what it sells for, right? And just get the reps, get the habit, the practice in of like analyzing, and you're like, oh wow, somebody paid $100,000 more than I probably would have. But it's just good reference and data and practice for knowing that micro market that you're interested in.
And one last thing I'll say to that: when you look at the market, look at the values, look at the houses, from houses that need work to houses of new construction. What's the rental median? Look at what you're investing in, so that way you can see what the margins are. Every parish has a different growth. Some at 5%, 6%, 3%. It just depends. Neighborhoods, all of that plays a factor. You don't necessarily need to be in the most prestige neighborhood, but if you hug it or you're right around a corner from it, it's a mile radius for your comps. So if a house sold in there, sure, they're going to make the necessary adjustments, but believe you me, it's going to help you. So those factors play a key role in all of it. So when I say know your area, for example, I can tell you right now what's the best neighborhoods in Algiers, and I haven't lived there in 20 years. And I still pass through. I still see, I pay attention. So those are the things that I say, it's familiar ground for you. So it makes your homework a little bit easier because it's familiar territory. So that's what I mean by do your homework, do your research, have a strategy, and then get your game plan together.
Yeah, my advice for new investors would be to be a student. Learn, always be learning, always be listening. There's so much to learn, keep learning. But I'll also say done is better than perfect. Okay? So take action. Don't make your first deal have to be this massive home run. Don't think your first deal is going to make you rich. It's probably not. You're probably going to mess up. It's probably going to be your worst deal, right? Just, obviously make sure you don't lose your shirt. But don't worry about the money you make. It's not about the first deal. It's not about the check. It's not about the result. It's actually about the proof of concept. It's actually about proving that you can do it. And it's actually how that's going to set up the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, 50th deal. So yeah, definitely learn, but just done is better than perfect.
Very good. Yeah, y'all give these guys a round of applause, man. That's fantastic. So we got a couple minutes here. Any questions from the crowd?
What do you think is the biggest mistake that new investors make?
Biggest mistake new investors make, probably like just not knowing the numbers. I mean, I think you really need to make sure you know the numbers. Like rents, resale values. Just you need to know what your deal's going to do. And yeah, some people just if your numbers are off, your deal's going to be off. And really, you make your money when you buy. I know it's a cliche, but it's a cliche because it's true. So like if you know your numbers up front and you buy right, you're gonna get forgiven. But if you buy wrong, it doesn't matter what you do, you're gonna be in trouble.
He pretty much hit the nail on the head. The biggest factor I would say when it comes to that is it boils down to not doing your homework, not having the right plan of action. And the only thing I would add to that is the discipline. Because whether you're flipping, whether you're buying a rental property, the discipline goes hand in hand. If you're buying a house to fix and flip, have your projection of what you're trying to spend, have your budget, and stick to it. Because in the midst of all these projects, when you're building, when you're fixing, I guarantee you something's going to come up. Light bulb's going to go in your head. Oh, but. And those buts are going to add up, and you're going to lose 10, 15% of your profits, if not more. And you won't even realize it until it's already done. And then you're going to scratch your head and say, what did I do? How did this happen? So discipline is probably the most crucial thing when dealing with it. And same thing with rental property. If you buy a rental property and you don't buy a new construction rental because it's not going to cash flow, so you buy something a little bit lesser value, but you want to fix it, paint it, new cabinets, simple fixes, right? Keep it simple, stupid. It's an investment. It's a rental. You're not living in it. It's not your forever home. A lot of investors, because they lack the experience, I've watched them do that. They go in and like, oh, but I don't like this, and I don't like that, and I want to put this grade, and I want to do here. Are you living in it? Is it your forever home? No. be disciplined with your money and how you're investing because it's an investment. If you overshoot the shot, you're done. There goes your profitability because now your costs go up, your cash flow goes down, and how long is it going to take you to even that back out? 2 years, 5 years? Those are all the things, like do your research, do your homework when it comes to numbers. It's the most important thing.
Mine's definitely going to be numbers too. But I think we get so in like, what are we buying the property for? What the ARV? What is the ARV? Like, what's my rehab? But I think putting that 10% contingency, no matter what, is only going to protect you, because if you think you can go to 5, like, why not put the 10? Because if the numbers work at a 10% contingency and you don't need it, then like it's definitely like a deal, right? But then also running not just those basic numbers that everybody thinks about, but like your holding cost with a loan. You know, what if you're sitting on the market 2 or 3 more months than you expected? What if, like, even for my first flip, the house was grandfathered in and it was too close to the perimeter, but it was grandfathered in. It was only like 3 feet away from the perimeter, where now you have to build 5 feet away from perimeter. And we had to go to plans and get a window facing a different direction for like fire escape egress window. And that pushed us back 3 weeks before we were allowed our permits. So I think contingency, like, don't think that you don't need it. And 2, rerun your holding cost. You know, when I'm working out this contract and like our sale price might change, or something might change. Does my rate change? How did my rate change? How does that change my holding cost, my cost to close? And also thinking not just your closing costs when you sell the property, but your closing costs when you, acquire your property.
One of your questions was like, what's going on with the long-term people leaving the industry, stuff like that. And it reminded me of one of Aussie Steve's Facebook posts, where people were getting greedy during COVID. They had deals made, and then they said, "Oh, well, I can get 3 more thousand from this person, 3 more thousand from this person." What is your perspective on reputation building and stuff like that?
I mean, reputation's everything. So brand is like, just, I think even just in general from a business point of view, like brand businesses invest millions and billions of dollars in brands for a reason, because like brands make money. And I think in real estate that's super important. I think real estate is a lot of personal brand to that. It's a people business, right? You do deals, repeat deals. So I think your personal brand's important. I think the mistake that in that post you're alluding to, I think people can be like short-term greedy. They're greedy because they're trying to maximize this deal. They're trying to like get over on someone or like do something just to maximize it now. But if that's doing bad by someone else, I think it's like obviously immoral and wrong, but also I think long-term greedy, like I think doing the right thing and being actually helping someone out, and like you actually make more money in the long term. So it's not just doing the right thing, you're actually making more money. It's just long-term greedy, long-term thinking, because you'll do a lot of repeat business, and that's super important.
Yeah, I'll second that notion on that, because integrity is everything. I was around doing loans back then, and yeah, it was pretty crazy how people were overpaying for a house, because I've learned that, yeah, the greed comes with the fear of the unknown, fear of failing, fear of not knowing what's going to happen because COVID and everything that was going on. So I get all those parameters, but at the end of the day, your integrity is everything. And I can speak from a standpoint of a landlord, even as an investor, where when you're doing these transactions, I don't remember if it was Carnegie or Ziegler that said it, but if you help enough people get to where they want to be, in turn, you're going to get where you need to be, right? And I'm a firm believer in that. And so with these rental properties, prime example, Mike can attest to it, where we were just having a conversation. And I think I said it to you guys, I don't go more than 2 weeks without a tenant. And truth, part of the reason why I grew so much so fast, just this year alone, I bought 5 more properties. My own tenants, they don't leave. And if I had $1 for everyone that moves in, they're like, man, I wish my landlord was like you. And like, if something breaks, they know when they sign at least 48 hours, I can't hold you accountable to pay me rent if I can't hold myself accountable to make sure that the house is up to speed, right? And so those are the things that I'm very adamant about. And when it deals with my tenants, they know that. And the reward of it is I also don't price gouge. Like, you see these people, you have properties out here, they're maximizing the rent. They want like top dollar. I fly under the radar. If you look at all my properties, if I'm profiting, I'm happy. I'm not trying to strike it rich quick. This is a marathon. It's not a race. So my biggest factor is, let me keep it fair so that I can cherry pick my tenants, number one. Number two, they see the type of landlord that I am. In return, Mr. Lewis, do you have a 3-bedroom available? Do you have a 2-bedroom available? I have somebody at my work. I have a family. I have a Joe Blow, whatever it is. And believe you me, I'm quick to start. Give me 60 days. How soon do they need it? I'm going to buy one. I'll buy it. Turnkey operation. As God is my witness. Turnkey operation. I have them on standby. I buy the property. Come on in. It's yours. I have my people, my little crew come in. Whatever needs to be touched up, they touch it up. What they need fix. Give me 3-4 days. You're done. Move in. And that has been, for the last, 3 years, the secret to my success. And it's the rewards of my own tenants. They find me tenants. And it's the biggest blessing, because I've seen rental properties vacant for 3 months, 6 months here in St. Bernard. I haven't experienced that, thank God. But still, it's a blessing to have that. But it's the reward of the integrity that you have with the people, because it is a people's business. Whether you're selling, whether you're retaining, whatever it is, you're dealing with individuals, families, and there's nothing more important than the roof over their head, period. Not a car, not clothes, not nothing. So, but integrity is probably everything when it deals with all this investment.
Yeah, I would just say that I think it speaks to like what type of people are in the room, right? Like, just because you could doesn't mean you should do that to people, you know? And I think everyone in here, it's just a room full of hard workers, right? Like, real estate investing isn't something that's just handed to you. Like, it's taking research, it's taking being in uncomfortable situations and networking and meeting new people as an adult, which can be like, feel really awkward sometimes, you know? So it's after hours. There's like no 9 to 5 here, right? So I think it speaks to where we know what hard work is. Every person in this room does. So it's like our hard work is turning these properties into something really valuable, which is in turn turning around these neighborhoods. And then, I mean, I moved around constantly as a kid, right? So like my goal was to have like a stable home for my kids to just like always be able to come back to. Like, your rental or your flip could be that home for another family. So I think if we like put ourselves in our buyer's shoes, or like our tenant's shoes, like, we want to do good, but we also want them to do good. And I think that should be truly like the name to the game, you know, do good for ourselves, but also doing good for other people, and providing not just affordable housing in a sense, but like good housing, and be a good landlord or be a good flipper where you're not just like patching a wall with duct tape kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, no, that's good. It's sowing and reaping, right? Like, whatever you plant today, you're gonna reap. You're not gonna plant grape
Right.
seeds and get watermelons, right? Like, whatever you plant today, eventually that's what you're gonna reap.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, this is a question for Louis. We guys kind of like the same principles that you have. We try to fly under the radar and rent, but you said you don't want to treat your rentals like you going to live there forever. But we try to do it a little bit different to keep our tenants long term. And most of them ask the same question: do you have 3 bedrooms and stuff like that? But we haven't started thinking like you yet. I need to buy one in the next 60 days. But that's probably something we need to add. But overall, you saying you don't put the higher grade material in your properties? So, like, what's the principle that makes them say like, oh, I'm gonna stay here with Louis, just because of the maintenance, or what? Because I try to answer within 2 hours. She hated it, but I try.
48-hour window. Always give yourself 48-hour windows. Perfect example. I got busted pipes. That's not getting fixed right now. My plumber's coming. He's gonna assess the damage, and he's coming back. AC unit goes out depending on what it is. And depending what time it is, they got to get the part. If they're closed, if it's a Saturday, they're not getting the part till Monday. So always give yourself 48 hours. Give yourself that cushion, because you're going to back yourself into a wall, and then that's your reputation that goes to crap. Number one. Two, as far as quality of stuff that you're putting in the house, don't put crap in there. But don't put top-notch stuff in there neither. It's an investment. It's a rental property. You can walk into any one of the properties that I have, nice countertops, nice cabinets, but it's not a cabinet that you would find in a $500,000 home where an auto close and it's soft and you've got the thick marble on it. You've got all. No, I'm not doing all that. Keep it simple, stupid. When you're investing, it's your money. It's an investment. You want a return. So the question is, if you're going to invest and you're going to put the money up, how long is it going to take you to recuperate that? If you're going to get that money back within the first year of rent, go for it. You can get back in the first 2 years of rent, go for it. It's going to take you 3 to 5 years. Think about it. Is it worth it? Because what are the odds of you keeping that tenant for 2 years? You don't know that. And then you got to raise the rent because that's the name of the game. Little by little, you start profiting more. As cost of living goes up, rent goes up. You keep it fair. I don't raise the rent every single year. It depends. Insurance, taxes. Like right now we have the insurance crisis, right? The insurance crisis, I work hand in hand. I don't just hand that off. I do my diligence to shop it and do what I can to keep it low. But at the same time, if it affects the dollar, I got to go up $20, $50, $60, whatever it is.
So, speaking on insurance, so we have a clause in our lease agreement that is a potential that we may go up a percentage each year based on the cost of the economy. So I was getting a reduction. We planned not to go up on our tenant this year, or should we still do that? Because we did get reductions on insurance.
I wouldn't go up. If your rent went down, your profitability went up, there's no reason to go up. Me personally, I wouldn't go up. If they're good tenants and you want to keep them, pick your poison. Greed or do the right thing. Yeah.
I would say my philosophy on the rental is to you should increase your rents a bit, right? Because I mean I deal with tired landlords all day, right? And like you see they haven't raised their rent in 20 years, and they're the ones that need to fire sale their property, like, so be careful, but you shouldn't put it up too much. So my philosophy is like, if the market rent's gone up 200, like I'll go up 50, I'll go like, because you want to keep them, like Luis is saying. So if you go to market rent, well, I mean, I'm incentivized to move, right? Because like I can go and get a new place. But if you're under market, then they're incentivized to stay with you. So I like to be under market, but that doesn't mean not moving. You should be moving a bit and to train them that it's going up, but staying under market is my philosophy.
I think it depends on the market, right? Like it depends on a rental market. Like if 3 years ago the market was crazy, I'd say, look, bump it up. Things, you know what I mean? Like you got 30 showings on every rental. Last year was horrible. It was as bad as I've ever seen. But we didn't raise a single rent last year because I'm like, I don't want anybody to move out. I don't know how long it's going to sit, right? So I think the market dynamics play. And then we usually send them a letter if we do go up saying, hey, listen, look, times are tough, insurance, this and that. We're going from 100 to 150, but market rent for this is 300. So you're still, like, we make sure we make it very clear that they're still getting a better deal than whoever's moving in if they move out.
I can say one more thing. He's absolutely right. So like I said, you want to look at, like he said, the market rent, look at the cost of living. If it's going up, the way I operate, I try not to go up every year on the rent, but I don't let it go more than 2. At a minimum, every 2 years, I'm going up, right? If insurances go up, if taxes go up, there's different parameters that are going to affect. Then that changes. I may do it every year if I need to, because I have a certain margin that I need to be at, right? I'm not charity. I do diligence. I keep it under market value, but at the same time, it has to be win-win. So look at the market, look at everything, look at what your margin is. Again, your goal, right? Your end result. What are you trying to accomplish? And base it off of that. Now, when it comes to blessings, not everybody gets that credit. Most people, their insurance keep going up and they have to shop it around and try to find something to even keep it the same. But if you have the blessing of having it go down and your margins go up, then pass it on. You see what I'm saying? It's do the right thing. You'll get more in return.
We have time for one more. Any other questions? Going once. All right. Well, hey, look, we got time. We got the room as late as y'all want to stay. So please hang out, network. Give it a round of applause one more time for these guys. They're fantastic. And before we close out, like I said, I'll pitch the last Wednesday of every month. We do the St. Bernard Parish Real Estate Meetup right here in this room. So the next one's going to be August, I believe it's 26th, working on that Katrina special. Look, Steve mentioned it, right? Plant the seed today. Get to know somebody. Look around. Find somebody you don't know. Talk to them. You never know when a person you meet might be your next partner, might be your next lender, might be your next private money investor, right? Like, you never know. Get to know somebody, hang out. They got cookies and snacks and drinks and stuff in the back. So y'all hang out, have a good time, and thank y'all so much for coming.